Hey everyone. With the new Path of Exile League starting tomorrow, I wanted to show you one of the most powerful third-party tools you can prep with, Exile UI, previously named Laylokin UI. This tool is a beast. At its core, Exile UI is a modular overlay engine that brings a ton of quality of life enhancements directly into your game. It's got a ton of tools like custom timers, act progression tracking, gear info, and more layered on top of your regular interface without ever needing to alt-tab. Especially at League Start, where speed and efficiency really matter, having all this information in-game can be a game changer. Today, I'll walk you through what it can do and how to get started. Let's dig in. The first thing you need to do is install it and get it running. It's pretty straightforward. You do need a specific version of Auto Hotkey installed. It links right to it right here. And then you just download it from their website and run the exiledui.ahk file. Doing this will launch the application and then it's ready to go. Once it's running, you won't see anything until you actually launch Path of Exile. Either 1 or 2, it works in both. I'm going to go over Path of Exile 1 here today. The only thing you'll see initially is this little gear icon at the top, which you can click, and it opens all the settings. There's a lot here, so let's go over it. First thing is a link to the wiki and setup guide. I do recommend checking it out for getting all your settings properly set. You probably don't need to mess with a lot of these settings here. If you don't want it to close after you close in the game, you can uncheck this box. Leaving everything else as default is probably okay. You will want to put whatever character you plan on running here, and then you can click this refresh button here, and it will check on your character, and it'll automatically start pulling information from the logs. You also can modify your game client settings. Sometimes you may want to run in a wider screen mode than your game normally allows. And if you do this, you can actually run it in a wider screen mode, which is nice because if you can tell, it actually just expands what you can see to the left and right. The normal standard 16:9 resolution is a little bit more limited. You can see technically a little bit more if you stretch your window out a little bit wider. So if you really want an edge, you can do that. I don't mind playing at full resolution, so that's what I'm going to do. On the hotkeys tab, this is where you can modify the default hotkeys. If your in-game settings are different, then you have to check these boxes. Omni key is used all over the place. It is by default middle mouse button. If you want to use something else, you can change it here. And the tab key is used on a couple places as well. And again, you can replace it here. Screen checks are important. If you want it to be able to tell where you're at, you're going to want to run through these screen checks. What you do is the info panel is just having your tab window open. If you can see this, your info panel is open, and you just calibrate. It says it's successful, and you can test it. It says it's positive when that info panel is open. You close that, you test it, it says it's negative because that info panel is no longer open. You want to do the same thing with your inventory. Calibrate, test, it knows the inventory is open. Now it knows it's closed. There will be more things added to this window as you enable more functions down below, but we'll get to that later. Finally, there's the updater. With this, it'll automatically check for updates. You can manually check to see what updates are out there. If you want to go to a specific version, you can. You just click on the version, and then you click apply and restart if you want to do that. I'm going to stay on the latest version. So that's it for the basic settings. The first option is the Act Decoder. What this does is if you check this box and you're in a zone, you can hold tab and it'll give you a general layout. In some locations, this could be rotated, so keep that in mind. But the general options are that you start at the white point, the blue is a waypoint, and the green is your main exit, and the gray is an alternate exit. So this is the first main zone, and you can see that these are the main options. You can also like scroll or move this around if you want, and put it wherever you want it to be. It's very useful, but the next one is even more useful. The act tracker is what actually initially drew me to this overlay. It really helps me to not forget to do the trials when I run across them, and guides you along your leveling progress through the acts. To turn it on, you just check this box, and then there are a few options. There's enable timer. That timer will time your total run and your current time in the current act, so you can keep track of that and figure out if you're speeding up or slowing down, or how things are going. If you want a timer, you can check that box. You can make it fade out after so many seconds. I don't like that personally, but you can do it if you want. Level recommendations are kind of nice. It'll tell you when you're getting to certain areas like Mervale that you want to be, X level when you're here. And then the main meat of it here is the guides. The pink one is the enabled guide, and you can click load default guide here, and that will initialize the guide slot. From here, you could run it like this. You don't have to do anything more. You click this box, and it will walk you through the acts. So it says, talk to Tarkley for this quest, and then enter the coast. If I was on that quest, I would talk to him. It doesn't actually know that I talked to him, but it will know that I moved to the coast, and it'll automatically say, okay, now you need to go activate the waypoint and enter the mudflats. And it'll keep doing that. Every time you zone, it will know that you've zoned, and it will move on to the next step of the guide. If you want a slightly even more, you can actually import a path of building. So if you have a path of building that you are using, you can go to import export, and you can do generate and copy, and then get that out of the way, and then import. And now this POB is lit up. So what this will now do is you can see that it says take rolling magma. So it'll tell you what pieces of what skill gem to take at each point, so that you're grabbing things that are on the guide. Now it tells you to grab it at the first time that you can grab it, and that also includes when you need to buy additional gems. So I'm just going to skip forward, and you can see on this quest it says to turn in some quests, grab these different things, and then go to here, purchase items. And this is where that Omni key comes in. If you hold the Omni key, which is by default middle mouse, it will automatically put in the correct text here to highlight the gems that you need to buy. So in this case, I need to buy Flame Wall. If there are more than can fit here, right here, scrolling, if you scroll down, it changes it, and you can buy those gems. It's very nice for knowing what to buy, what to pick up. Again, though, it'll tell you to buy it at the first possible point you can get it, which you may not need it yet according to the build guide, but at least you have it at that point. Additionally, if you have a gem, you can middle mouse on it, and it'll tell you, or your Omni key on it, and it'll tell you if it's in the POB where it goes. So Fast Attacks in that POB gets linked to Leap Slam and Frostblink. Arcane Surge gets linked to Cruelty, Combustion, and Firestorm. And then the really nice one is, and I'm going to switch actually to the build I'm doing. And you can see if you import your POB, and you've set up the screen check for your skill tree, when you have your skill tree open, you can hit tab, and it will pull open an overlay, which you can right click and drag, and it'll tell you this is where you're going. Oh, so the next point I put in here, this 3 means you grab the third one, which is the 60% increased damage while wielding 2 different weapon types. And then you hit Q and E to move between the different trees. And red lines are things that it wants you to unspec from. So it makes it really easy to see what you're going to, what you should be grabbing, and what you should be removing. The next setting is Betrayal Info. If you enable that, you can see some more options here. The main one is down here under Reward Customization. You can click on these, and then you can either hit 1, 2, or 3 to change its color. With that, you can go through and say, oh, I really want these. I kind of don't want that, and I don't care about these, so I'm going to leave it white. And you go through and, change things however you want, and you set up whatever rewards you want. Then there is still some additional setup. You have to go and look at your investigation. And then if you look at here, if you hold the middle mouse button, it'll show you what's going on. Now, I already have captured Aisling, so it does show that, oh, she's in research and has everything right there. But I'm going to go to one that I haven't set up. So that flood is here. If I hold right click and then hit the middle mouse button, it'll pull open this snipping thing, which you need to capture enough of their name, but it needs to be low enough that it's a part that won't get covered up by gear, and assign it to say, oh, this is it that fled. And you also need to capture once per area the location. So I will grab transportation. It is transportation. Okay. And now when I middle mouse, it's going to move at the top where it knows it's at, and it'll show you, the status of everybody. You do have to do the name capture for each person one time. Not one time per location, but just one time. And you have to do the location capture one time per location. So you only have to capture transportation once, even if there are multiple people in it. And that'll help you to set up and know just by middle mouse clicking, oh, I have, Gravicious in a good spot. I have Aisling not in a good spot. The next option is cheat sheets. If you enable this, you can name this, say, Atlas, because I want something to show up when I'm on the Atlas. Click add. You need to tell it how to tell if you're on the right page, which I'm going to grab something that's static to the Atlas. Just as an example, test it, say, yep, that's working. And then you can edit it, and you can put an image in here. I'm going to copy an image that I have and just click on paste. Now it's there. Now whenever I'm in the Atlas, and I can close that now, I can hold Alt and push the Omni key, and the image that I selected comes up. So you can use this for additional cheat sheets, additional, like, maybe you want to use this for betrayal instead of the built-in betrayal tool, or you want to have something for the new league mechanic, whatever you want. You can build your own custom help windows, basically. The next tool in this toolbox is clone frames. It's a very useful tool for keeping track of things like your skill cooldowns. So I will, for example, put my movement skill on here. I'll call it movement, and then you click edit, and then you can left click where you want to start the capture, right click where you want to end the capture, and then middle click where you want the thing to be, and then hit save. And now I have this movement skill showing here. It's not actually there. I can't click on it to use it or anything, but it is following with the skill below. You can have more than one of these. You can have as many as you want. And if you want to get rid of it, you just click and delete it. The next tool is the Enchant Finder, a very useful tool for finding anoints for your rings and amulets. If you check this box and then you go to either your Blight tab or wherever you have your oils, doesn't have to be in a Blight tab, and then you push Alt, it'll open this window. In this window, you can tell it how much of each oil you have, either by scrolling up or down to change the number, or just by clicking Alt on each of the different oils, and it will collect how many of those oils you have. And then from here, there is a keyword search and a matches. So if you want to say find everything with area of effect, you can click on that. It'll find everything that says area of effect. Maybe you want area effect of war cries. Well, there's only one option. So, it'll narrow it down. If you're looking for, instead of area of effect of war cries, maybe you're looking for a rings recipe. That has to do with the chilling tower. And you always forget which one does your chilling towers can freeze. Oh, it's the light blue and gray. That's all there is to that one, but very useful. And the next tool is the item info tool. If you enable this, when you long middle click or omni key on an item, it will give you some information about the item. Here you can do some things like mark certain things as desired, mark things as not desired, and it will remember that. And when you're comparing future items, it will mark them appropriately. And if we look at this weapon, it has max rolls on both of its items, but it doesn't matter. If I say I don't want resist on weapons ever, I can check this box and it will mark that as undesirable. So it will show me, oh, this has got an undesirable mod. I don't even have to look at this item any further. So that can be very useful for filtering through what items, oh, this one's got good stuff, this one doesn't have good stuff. You do have to mark it yourself of which stuff you think are good or not good. The next tool is the map info tool. This will help you to quickly tell whether you want to run a map or not. So what you can do is you can enable it and middle click on a map and go, oh, less area of effect is really bad for me. So use 1, 2, or 3, or 4 to do its badness. And so it's green, orange, red, or pink. Pink being the worst. And so like, okay, that's bad. This one's a little bit bad. This one's, more bad. And you can go through, and then if it's on, when you're looking through maps, if there's more, oh, this one's vulnerability is really bad, I'm going to say I don't like that and less armor. As you're going through maps, if there's ones that you've already marked as bad or good, then you can see at a glance at the bottom how many bad or good mods there are. And maybe it's like, oh, if there's one pink, I don't run it. I can run 1, maybe 2 reds. But I can't run more than that or something like that. So you can kind of keep track of how many mods of good or bad there are on items, on maps. And then it also supports logbooks where you can do similar things, where you can do artifact drops is really good. So I'm going to mark that as a 4. Placement range is okay. I'm going to mark that as a 2. But I really don't care about monster markers, so I'm going to mark that as a 1. And you can see, like, okay, this has got, these different affixes a little bit easier without having to actually read everything once you've got it set up. It does take some setup, but it can be very useful. The next tool is a map tracker. It keeps track of the maps you've run. You can put a few other checkboxes here for what it should be tracking. And then you put your map in your map device, run your map. Kill count updated. Now you run through, you do your map. Then completes it, and you can see the previous run on here with all the tracked information. And the next section is actually 3 tools. It's the minor quality of life tools, which has an alarm / timer, which if you enable, you won't see anything at first, but you hit tab and you will have these buttons right at the top where you can click plus, add a timer. Let's say it's a 5-second timer, and then we can name it test and then hit start. At first, you won't see anything. If you hit tab, you'll be able to see it. And as soon as the time runs out, it will pop up and it'll start counting up the amount of time that it's been since the timer completed. You can clear the timer by holding tab and right click on the numbers, or you can delete it altogether by right clicking on the name and holding. For Notepad, if you enable it, there is a button that gets added up at the top. You can add a notepad. We'll call this one test. And I'm very original, so we're going to call it, put a line here, line 1. You can use this as a normal notepad if you want in the game. That alone is not that much more useful than just having a notepad that you tab to. But you can click and drag it out, and that will put it out in the world. And then if you, again, hold tab so you can interact with it and right click, it'll disappear. There's another feature where you can put a pound sign and put line 2, pound sign, line 3. And now when you drag this out, it has 3 lines. And if you, again, hold tab so you can interact and scroll on it, you can scroll. So you can have notes that have multiple pages that you can see, which can be quite useful. Again, right click to delete and hold right click to delete here, and we can be done. One of the tools that I use more is the lab overlay. If you go to Aspirant's Plaza and you have this enabled, and you hit tab, it will open up this window, which if you click on the top here, it will open up to PoE lab, which you can then go to whatever lab you're going to run, and then right click and copy image. It'll say successful when it's done. And if you're using Lab Compass, which I won't go over here, you can also import the Lab Compass file by right clicking and copy link address. I don't have Lab Compass going right now, so it failed. Now, when you're in here, if you hit tab, it will pop open the screenshot that you took. So while you're running through, you can keep track of where you're at, where you're going, and where all the dark shrines and stuff are relatively easily. Also, if you're not used to PoE Lab, one thing to note is the spot where the dot is the general location that door is going to be. So the first door is kind of upper right. This one, if we want to go right to the trial, we go upper left. If we want to go here, which has a dark shrine, we go upper right. And then, you know, corresponding all the way through. Next up is a overview of the Sanctum Planner. If you have the Sanctum Planner enabled, then you can click on your relic altar and hit tab. If this opens in the wrong spot, you can move it over by clicking in the box, although that will move you. And then you can right click on the top block of individual relics, and it will put them into a list, and you can be like, okay, well, which ones are giving me my resolve? Oh, these 2 are giving me a resolve. And then you can, you know, adjust and move things around to your liking. And then you go into your Sanctum. And then step 2 is the Sanctum Planner here, which again, you hold Alt, and you can hold Alt and push space to kind of lock it open. Because the first time you're going to need to calibrate paths. And you need to get a screenshot of the middle of a path. And then you calibrate rooms. You get a screenshot of the background of a room. and then you can hit scan. It'll take a second to go through and scan, and it should find all the rooms and give you information of all the paths. If you long right click, you can see where it saw everything on the scan. And here you can do things like say, oh, I want to go to room 5, so I mark it as green, but I want to avoid room 12. Oh, that means I need to take 9. This is my only path. The next tool is search strings. This can be useful for things like gambling.
Well met.
In a gambling mood?
And what you can do is create a use case, and I'm going to call this one gamble. And then I'm going to calibrate it to find the word gamble, because then it'll know it's on the right thing. Test it, make sure it works. And then I'm going to edit it, and I'm going to add a search string. And what I'm thinking I'm looking for is rustic stashes. So I'm going to just put in a search entry for rustic stashes, which ends with CSA, whatever. There's a lot of options available for this. Which you can get to the full regex here. And now that that's in place, if I middle click while in the gamble window, it's going to automatically highlight that item. If I want, I can also look for, maybe I want another option. Sometimes I'm looking for this vol claw. So I'm going to add an entry called claw, and this one's going to say vol claw. And now when I middle click, it's going to say, what am I looking for? The claw? Sure. The sash? Sure. And it will automatically put in your search syntax. This is useful for gambling for uniques, or for looking for boots with movement speed in the beginning of the acts. There's plenty of other options. You can use it on just about anything. Next up is the Stash Ninja. If you enable a Stash Ninja, and then you go to your Stash tab, to any tab that has a static layout, like the Fragment tab, you can hold middle mouse on a item in the tab, and it will start to show some information about it. This is the average price of these items, based on PoE Ninja pricing, and you can cursor over it to see a history. And if you enable bulk sale management and your stash is set to public, you can right click on an item, and it will bring up this window, which you can then choose whether you're selling it for chaos or divines. And then you can choose a price point, and then hit confirm, making sure this note window is still open, and it will auto fill it out and set it properly so that when you so it's for sale for the proper price. And the last feature is an experimental one called TLDR Tooltips. Right now it only works on Eldritch Altars and Vol site areas, but what you do is you enable it, and you do need to set a hotkey. I've set it to tilde for me. And if you've changed your toggle highlighting in game, you want to tell it what you changed it to here so it can do its thing. You cursor over the altar and you hit your hotkey, and it will give you some TLDRs of what the things are. And if you are like, well, I really like these, so you can highlight it, using the 1, 2, 3 cores like keys like other features do, as you see fit, and that will let you know at a glance whether you have not indicated it by it being white, which you can set it back to with space, or how you've indicated it to be. And then you hit the tilde key again, or whatever you've set to set it back. And it does also work on Vol site areas, which I have one up here. And it works exactly the same. You hit your indicated key, and it will bring up a list of the things and you can just set them as you see fit. You know, like that's will let you at a glance much quicker decide whether you want to go into a vault site area or not, or which altar you want to click on a given altar. And that's an overview of all the features of Exile UI. While I touched on each current feature, I didn't dig too deeply into everything because I'm still figuring out what all it can do. The developer is constantly improving and adding features, including adding support for Path of Exile 2. I'm going to keep using this tool, and I strongly recommend it to anyone playing Path of Exile. Be sure to donate to the developer if you're in a position to do so that he can keep up the good work. I'll have a link to Exile UI in the description, along with my Twitch channel if you want to catch me live or ask any questions. Have a good one.